The globalists are making really big moves which would fundamentally change how our society operates. Michael Snyder reports, while everybody else is distracted, the globalists are making absolutely enormous moves. Previously, I've written about the UN's new worldwide system for cracking down on misinformation, quote unquote, and about their desire to implement a global system of digital identification that is tied to our bank accounts. I realize that these things sound really wild, but they are not being done in secret. In fact, the globalists are very proud of what they're doing, but only a small percentage of the population is even aware of this insidious agenda that they're pushing through, and so there is very little debate about this. Ultimately, the globalists want to create a system that would literally give them total control of everything. Sadly, I'm not exaggerating this one bit. For example, the Bank of International Settlements has released a blueprint, quote unquote, that calls for a creation of a unified ledger that would eventually record ownership of all assets on the entire planet. The following is an extended excerpt from that blueprint, which comes directly from the official website of the BIS. This chapter presents a blueprint for a future monetary system that harnesses the potential of tokenization to improve the old and enable the new. The key element of the blueprint are CBDCs, tokenized deposits, and other tokenized claims on financial and real assets. The blueprint envisages these elements being brought together in a new type of financial market infrastructure, FMI, a unified ledger. The full benefits of tokenization could be harnessed in a unified ledger due to the settlement finality that comes from central bank money residing in the same venue as other claims. Leveraging trust in the central bank, a shared venue of this kind has great potential to enhance the monetary and financial system. A unified ledger transforms the way that intermediaries interact to serve end users through programmability and the platform's ability to bundle transactions. Composability. A unified ledger allows sequences of financial transactions to be automated and seamlessly integrated, and this reduces the need for manual interventions and reconciliations that arise from the traditional separation of messaging, clearing, and settlement, thereby eliminating delays and uncertainty. The ledger also supports simultaneous and instantaneous settlement, reducing settlement times and credit risks. Settlement in central bank money ensures the singleness of money and payment finality. Moreover, by having everything in one place, a unified ledger provides a settling in which a broader array of contingent actions can be automatically executed to overcome information and incentive problems. In this way, tokenization could expand the universe of possible contracting outcomes. The unified ledger thus opens the way for entire new types of economic arrangement that are impossible today due to incentive and informational frictions. The eventual transformation of the financial system will be limited only by the imagination and ingenuity of developers that build on the system, such as the ecosystem of smartphone apps has for exceeding the expectations of the platform builders themselves. So what would be in control of this? Who would be in control of this unified ledger? Needless to say, it would be the globalists. And as Mike Adams has pointed out, this would mean that your ownership of assets can be revoked or altered at any time. This new plan describes an Orwellian, globalist-run unified ledger that records the ownership of all assets, checking accounts, real estate, bonds, stocks, etc., on a centralized exchange run by globalists. All assets will be tokenized, a process that the BIS describes as recording claims on financial or real assets that exist on a traditional ledger on a programmable platform. This unified ledger will feature programmable entries, meaning that your ownership of assets can be revoked or altered at any time, according to the social engineering desires of the globalists. Ownership of all assets on the entire planet would be determined by their unified ledger, and so if you are really a bad boy or girl, they could go in and simply transfer ownership of everything that is yours to someone else, and you'd own nothing. With just a few clicks, you would own nothing and would become a total outcast. Of course, this is just one element of the globalist agenda. They also want to give the UN unprecedented emergency powers at the Summit of the Future in September 2024. The powerful United Nations is now seeking to increase its influence worldwide by seizing global emergency powers, and President Joe Biden supports their proposal. Interestingly, the UN proposal would begin September 2024, a mere 2 months before a highly anticipated general election in the US. The global organization will host a Summit of the Future, quote unquote, where associated nations will adopt a so-called Pact for the Future. The Pact for the Future includes a provision which will create an emergency platform for the United Nations whenever a major global shock is deemed to have occurred. So if there is another global pandemic, a world war, an economic collapse, or some other sort of worldwide emergency, the United Nations would suddenly be telling everyone what to do. The emergency platform would provide an international body with power over all nations in times of distress. Such power, according to the UN, is needed to ensure that all participating actors make commitments that can contribute meaningfully to the response, and that they are held to account for delivering those commitments. According to the UN's policy proposal, the Secretary General could extend the emergency platform, if need be, despite its duration being set for a finite period. Such a decision would be made without the consent of any member nations. Do you really want the UN to have that sort of a power? Unfortunately, Joe Biden and his minions fully support this proposal. Biden has a long history of doing whatever the globalists want, and so this is probably why they're trying to rush this through before the next US presidential election. At this point, Biden is a shell of his former self. He has degenerated into an old man that regularly shouts obscenities at random staff members. President Joe Biden, behind closed doors, has a temper that sees him yelling at staff and shouting obscenities, a new report on Monday revealed. In fact, his temper is so bad that some staff tried to avoid meeting alone with him or bring along a colleague to help defuse the situation, Axios reported. With such a weak leader in the White House, the globalists see an opportunity to advance their agenda like never before. And if they get their way, our entire society will be completely turned upside down. And let me leave you with one more example. A globalist organization called the Arup Group that has close ties to the World Economic Forum is actually proposing a complete and total end to private car ownership. On construction, cities need to change what types of buildings and infrastructure are built, as well as what materials are used. On transport, private car ownership needs to end, and the shared vehicles that replace it have to use less materials and be longer lasting. Urban residents will also need to adopt a largely plant-based diet, mostly replacing flying and less energy-intensive forms of long-distance transports, change how clothes and textiles are consumed, and keep electronics and household appliances for longer. These people are insane, but they are going to keep pushing the envelope until someone stops them. If you plan to object to what they're doing, you should take a stand while you still have the freedom to do so. We're living in one of the most critical times in all of human history, and we need men and women of courage that are willing to speak the truth. Because lies and deception are seemingly everywhere these days, and darkness is growing all around us at a pace that is absolutely staggering. This is by Michael Snyder. He says, about the author, my name is Michael, and my brand new book entitled End Times is now available on Amazon. In addition to my new book, I've written 6 other books available on Amazon, including 7-Year Apocalypse, The Lost Prophecies of the Future of America, The Beginning of the End, and Living a Life That Really Matters, commissions earned. When you purchase any of these books, you help to support the work that I'm doing, and one way that you can really help is by sending copies as gifts to family and friends. Time is short and I need help getting these warnings into the hands of as many people as possible. I've also started a brand new Substack newsletter, and I encourage you to subscribe so that you won't miss any of my articles. I have published thousands of articles on the Economic Collapse blog, End of the American Dream, and the most important news, and the articles that I publish on those sites are republished on dozens of other prominent websites all over the globe. I always freely and happily allow others to republish my articles on their own websites, but I also ask that they include this about the author section with each article. The material contained in this article is for general information purposes only, and readers should consult licensed professionals before making any legal, business, financial, or health decisions. I encourage you to follow me on social media, Facebook and Twitter, and any way that you can share these articles with others is definitely a great help. These are such troubled times and people need hope. John 3:16 tells us about the hope that God has given us through Jesus Christ. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish but have everlasting life. If you have not already done so, I strongly urge you to invite Jesus Christ to be your Lord and Savior today. This is by Michael Snyder on the Economic Collapse blog. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support. Please support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.